Oh, Woody, Andy here again. Well, I posted an audio boo the other day about the fact that life has become a little less hectic than what it was when Hastings Rock was on the air and everything else was going on associated with that, and that I could now get back into doing something that I like to do, which is reading, something that I have to sort of get rid of and clear the deck, should we say, when Hastings Rock comes along. And the first book that I read was this one. Might be a bit of a strange choice, Flotsametrics, as he says, and the Floating World, by a guy called Curtis Ebbesmeyer. Now, you've probably never heard of him unless you watch some of my older videos, because I've mentioned him in a couple of videos before. But he came to prominence. He lives in the sort of Seattle area of northern North America, and he's an oceanographer, I suppose, and I suppose he's a bit of an environmentalist as well in some ways. But what his whole life has evolved into, because he's one of these people, like so many others, whose life has taken lots of different turns and taken different tangents, and all because of things that have happened, coincidental things that have happened. One of which, as you can see from the front cover here, is this little fellow. A little rubber duck, and he, after a spillage of rubber ducks in the Pacific Ocean, he ended up sort of monitoring the way that they floated around on all the tides and all the currents that we've got in our oceans. And that book talks about the whole how it all works, and how through the use of rubber ducks, for example, but also even dead bodies and how they float around. And they had a whole load, thousands and thousands of Nike sneakers, as they call them over there, which escaped when a ship went down or a container fell off, as they do off these big container ships, and they started washing up on beaches. Hence the fact people started noticing, oh, where do these come from? He's tracked all that type of stuff. Very interesting book, a very interesting guy, and if you ever get the chance to, he's got I think it's called Beachcombers Alerts. Have a look at his website. It's not the best website in the world, I'll admit, but it's very interesting, and it's very interesting to read that and see how everything, all the oceans are connected in different ways, and how these ducks, sneakers, dead bodies, planks of wood, or whatever it might be that are traceable, can literally circle the world or go round and round in circles on specific currents that we didn't know existed. But one of the things that's mentioned in there is messages in bottles. Now, we've all heard the police song, Message in a Bottle. We all know about people throwing these things overboard or putting them into the sea, wherever they might live, throwing them off their local beach or something like that, and they get drifted around. And like these ducks, like the sneakers, like all the other things that I've mentioned, they can end up miles and miles away from home, literally thousands and thousands of miles. And there's a whole section in there dedicated to that, because some people have done this in the name of scientific research, and obviously there's more other, sort of the Robinson Crusoe type thing, where people have thrown them out there. Some people have done it for a bit of fun, if you find this, send it back. Competitions, companies have done this as a bit of publicity, etc. But it got me thinking, as these things I want to do, about this type of thing. Because in a way, a video or a blog post or an audio boo or any one of these things that you put up onto the internet as a personal post, shall we say, a personal piece of audio or video or whatever it is, a thought, is a bit like a message in a bottle. You're putting it up there onto the internet on whatever site it might be, in whatever form it might be, and you have no idea who's going to watch it, do you? It might not be anyone. Maybe no one will ever find it. You never know where that sort of internet current, shall we say, is going to take your video, your blog post, your photo, or whatever. We have probably all, and I've mentioned this several times before, we've probably all been amazed at how, if you do this on a regular basis, video, etc., where these things end up. If I sort of periodically Google my username, andymooseman, and have a look and trawl through, because it can be fascinating. And my videos have turned up on websites literally all over the world, and in places you would never imagine. And not long ago I did this, and I ended up and found I was on some website in Cambodia for some reason, as a post about, I can't remember what it was because I probably couldn't read the language. It might be a Cambodian porn site, for all I know. It didn't look like it, but I think it was actually a newspaper. But that just gives you sort of some idea of how this can happen. I still get, and still constantly amazed at the comments that I get on videos that I've posted years ago, literally 2, 3, 4 years ago, and people still commenting on them now. People from anywhere in the world. The blog posts that I do, which include these videos, etc. as well, and all the sort of output that I put up there. I've got a flag counter on there, and I have to look at that every so often, and it tells you all the countries that individual users come from. I don't count them twice, I just count them the once. Sort of unique users, and you'd be amazed there's sort of 40, 50 odd or whatever it is from India and places like that, and so many countries, 100, I've forgotten how many countries it was I looked at last time. I was staggered that somebody from some of these really out there sort of countries you maybe don't even know that exist sometimes, or you would never imagine that they would be interested in your videos. Yes, they could be expats, I suppose, English speaking people. A lot of them aren't, as I've relayed in videos before, where I remember that time when a school teacher in Colombia started using my videos in Bogota in Colombia in South America to teach people English as a way. And you think, wow, what's going on here? I remember the correspondence that I got into with this English teacher. As I said, you put these messages out there and you've just got no idea where that current's going to take them. And if you ever find a message in a bottle, you open that up and you have a look at that message, and it's pretty unique to you. That's another thing with this in some ways. Although you're putting it out there for potentially anybody to watch, when it gets to that person, it's a bit of an individual message, isn't it? I could be talking to you directly. And that's how it feels to me in some ways. You're talking to one person, a bit like it is with a radio DJ in a way, I suppose, as well. And maybe even there now, you think about it with the internet, you've got no idea who's listening. We get that with Hastings Rock, and people tune in from Australia or America, Canada, or wherever it might be. You'd be quite surprised where these things end up. The internet age has done that. So apart from the sea still does it, but the internet does it in a completely different way, I think. Even for landlocked countries, something that rubber ducks and sneakers could never do on floating currents like Mr. Curtis Ebbesmeyer mentioned. So just a little thought for you, something that struck me. You never know. Throw that message out there and who knows which beach it might end up on. Thanks for your time. I'll speak to you again soon. Goodbye.